Namaskar. Good evening and welcome to another episode of Spinning Sagas with Sunita. So today I have a very special guest. He's multi-talented and he writes, he acts, he directs. So it's my absolute honor and a delight to welcome on this show Lalit Magazine, sir.
Thank you very much, Sunita. You have been very generous in your words of praise, which I probably don't deserve. But anyway, thank you very much. And I'm very grateful to you for having invited me to your show.
It's an honor for me, sir, that you
Uh, Pleasure
you
for
have
me as well. Honor for me as well.
always so generous and kind with your compliments, sir. I must say. well, आप सभी को तारुफ क्या कराएं ललित मैगजीन सर ये जर्नलिस्ट भी रहे हैं, इन्होंने कॉलम्स में लिखा भी है और इन्होंने इनका कम्युनिकेशन स्किल्स का इंस्टीट्यूट बहुत पॉपुलर था भरतपुर में और इन्होंने किताब भी लिखी है अपने स्टूडेंट्स के सक्सेस स्टोरीज पर द प्लंज और इनका एक थिएटर ग्रुप भी है, एक्टर भी हैं, डायरेक्ट भी किया है और इनकी एक किताब novel which he's writing and he's giving the finishing touches to it. So इतने multi talented हैं आप. So sir, I would like to ask you, if I may, with your permission.
Yes, of course, of course, of course.
So I'd like to ask you a few questions, and that is, you are a person of so many talents. आप इतनी प्रतिभाओं के मालिक हैं, तो उसमें से कौन सी ऐसी प्रतिभा है which is that art which is very close to you? Acting, directing, writing, communication skills, teacher, trainer, motivational speaker. What is it which is the closest to you, which fulfills you?
You have added so many talents to my small pool of talent, whatever talent I have. Basically, the talents which you mentioned, and I don't have all those talents, and some of them, a few of them, like acting and public speaking and reading, writing, well, writing certainly, but I am very lazy, and because of my laziness, I find it very difficult to finish what I have started.
All creative people are lazy, I believe. So
no, but
that just shows that you are very creative.
Well, creative people who are lazy, at least they produce something. They have a plethora of writings or works to their credit. My laziness hasn't allowed me to do much, except, of course, I enjoy teaching. I used to take classes which particularly literature and, of course, communication skills. And I also enjoy, of course, acting has always been my favorite. I would place acting at number one. And the other thing which I was good at was cricket. As a matter of fact, cricket was my first love. And
oh, wow, wonderful. A sportsman
too? Yeah, well, I captained my school team, and I played, represented my state also, that is the J&K state. But I couldn't go much further because while playing a match, I suffered a back injury, because of which the doctors advised me not to go further. But cricket is still my passion. I follow cricket very, very closely. And apart from that, my favorite talent, hobby is lying down on the couch, having a book in my hand, earphones in my ear, listening to music. That is my ideal. Nothing to do.
So that's where you get your... Okay, yeah. So that's where you get your ideas from. Your mystery novel. Your mystery novel is set in Kashmir. So quickly, can you tell me a little bit about your childhood in Kashmir? A little bit, you know.
My childhood in Kashmir, I completed my schooling there.
Okay.
And Kashmir, of course, is a wonderful place to be in. And yes, we were a joint family. We had lots of cousins. So we used to have fun. There were no restrictions as such. We would go out, watch movies also. And movies also, of course, are my passion. I wouldn't miss a single movie, I suppose. And Kashmir, at that time, when I was there, was a very, very peaceful place. And all this that we hear these days was not there. And two communities existed there. And that is the only two communities which exist even now. And we had absolute love and affection for one another. No hatred, no animosity. I didn't even know. I was studying in a Christian school, Burnhall School.
Yes.
And I had two or three friends. We were a group of four close friends. Our vice principal was Father Farrow. He was a thorough gentleman, but very strict, and a very stickler for honesty and truthfulness, all that.
So did you act in school also? Did you act in school?
Yes, in school also, yeah.
Since school,
I acted in Agatha Christie's 10 Little Indians. Wow. Of course, at that time it was called the 10 Little Niggers, but now we can't use that word, so it's 10 Little
I know.
Indians. And then there were different names. In school, we acted in plays. I was part of the acting group of my school.
And
so
then you took up directing.
I was telling about Kashmir.
Yes.
Yeah, later on. I went to Pune, then Bharatpur. So basically, I started directing from Pune, then from Bharatpur, the main part.
Okay.
So as I was just telling about Hindu-Muslim unity, and once Father Farrow called me and said that, Lalit, I don't like you anymore. I said, I was shocked suddenly. I said, why? What happened? He said, well, I thought you were a Muslim, and I was very happy to see that you were friends with Hindus like Suresh, etc. And I just came to know that you're not a Muslim, you're also a Hindu. So therefore, I don't like you anymore. So I didn't know whether to laugh or how to react. So that was the kind of atmosphere I was brought up in. And I still believe in that. I still have the same feeling of equality.
I think that was the time. That's how even in Allahabad, we, like I say, the Ganga Jamni Tehzeeb, उसमें पले बढ़े होने से तो काफी, तो इसलिए आपको तो उर्दू का भी बहुत शौक है, और क्योंकि मुझे पता है साहिर, फैज और आपको काफी सारी चीजों में इंटरेस्ट है, ऑल्दो यू कॉल योर सेल्फ लेजी, बट आई डू नॉट बिलीव सो। इतनी सारी चीजें आपने करी हैं, डायरेक्ट किया है, एनैक्ट किया, एक्ट किया, तो और तो मैं, अगर हम लोगों को आप थोड़ा कुछ, टुडे ललित सर विल बी टेलिंग अ स्टोरी, बट बिफोर दैट इफ यू कुड आप थोड़ी कुछ हमें अपने रिसाइट करें तो it would be an honor for us. It would be an honor for us and for me.
Really?
Yes.
आपने अभी कहा कि मैं उर्दू अच्छी जानता हूँ। मुझे सबसे बड़ा अफसोस है कि हमारे स्कूल में उर्दू नहीं पढ़ाई जाती थी
जी।
तो उर्दू मैंने कभी पढ़ी नहीं, कभी सीखी नहीं, और जो कुछ थोड़े बहुत अल्फाज मैंने पिकअप किए वो अभी गानों से, शायरी से, या फिर उर्दू ड्रामास बहुत देखता हूँ तो वहां से भी काफी कुछ सीखने को मिलता है। तो उर्दू का शौक तो रहा, लेकिन अनफॉर्चुनेटली मैं उर्दू पढ़ नहीं पाया। तो शेर व शायरी का शौक है, आप जानती हैं। तो
जी।
अब आप कहते हैं कुछ डिसाइड करूं, तो एक बहुत ही मेरी फेवरेट गजल है, बचपन से मैंने सुनी थी जब मैं कोई 6th या 7th क्लास में था। किसी ने किसी पार्टी में सुनाई थी और मैं उससे ऐसा मुतासर हुआ कि वो अब तक मुझे याद है और कभी भूला नहीं। ये गजल बाद में मुझे पता चला कि behzad लखनवी ने लिखी थी, और गजल तो उन्होंने 4-5 शेरों की ही लिखी थी, लेकिन शायद ये गजल इतनी अच्छी लगी लोगों को कि इसमें कुछ शायर आते गए और अपने अपने शेर जोड़ते गए। और अब ये गजल अगर आप सुनेंगे, कभी कोई शेर सुनेंगे, कभी कोई शेर सुनेंगे, अब ये नहीं पता लगता है कौन सा behzad लखनवी का है और कौन सा इसमें जोड़ा गया। तो मैं 2-3 शेर इसके आपको सुनाता हूँ। इसको जरा वो मुशायरा वाले स्टाइल में
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल
इजाजत दें तो
इरशाद। बिल्कुल बिल्कुल।
हमारे सुनने वाले, देखने वाले कहीं बोर ना हो जाए।
कोई नहीं बोर होगा, सब रुके हैं आपके लिए।
अच्छा, चलो, थैंक यू। जज्बाए दिलगर मैं चाहूं हर चीज मुकाबिल आ जाए। जज्बाए दिलगर मैं चाहूं हर चीज मुकाबिल आ जाए। मंजिल की तरफ 2 गाम चलूं, मंजिल की तरफ 2 गाम चलूं और सामने मंजिल आ जाए। है जज्बा दिलगर मैं चाहूं आता है तूफान आने दो, आता है तूफान आने दो। कश्ती का खुदा खुद हाफिज है। मुश्किल तो नहीं इन मौजों में, मुश्किल तो नहीं इन मौजों में। बहता हुआ साहिल आ जाए।
क्या बात।
मुश्किल तो नहीं इन मौजों में, बहता हुआ साहिल आ जाए। है भर के तजल्ली ठहर जरा, मूसा और शाहतूर की कहानी आपने सुनी होगी बिल्कुल। है भर के तजल्ली ठहर जरा, खुद को क्या मूसा समझा है। मैं वो तूर नहीं जो जल जाए, मैं वो तूर नहीं जो जल जाए। आता है मुकाबिल जो आए।
वाह, क्या बात है, क्या बात है।
मैं चाहूं। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
क्या बात है, क्या बात है, क्या बात है। आपने तो
ये तो
बिल्कुल,
कमाल
और
उस शायर
एक
का है जिसने ये
नहीं, कमाल आपकी आवाज का है और आपके तरीके का है, और जिस तरह से आपने गाया, और क्या आवाज है आपकी। तो आज एक ये भी
थैंक यू
पर्दा
जी
खुला। ये भी आज ये एक और टैलेंट सामने आया आपका। तो मेरे ख्याल से अब एक ये सेपरेट करना पड़ेगा जिसमें सिर्फ आप गजल गाएं और आप रिसाइट करें, क्योंकि मेरे ख्याल से सभी को बहुत ही पसंद आया और बहुत बढ़िया आपने। तो
I'm
थैंक यू
very
फॉर
happy.
दिस। सो
No, I should thank you that you gave me an opportunity. मैं तो मौके की तलाश में रहता हूँ, कोई मुझे कहे तो सही।
जर्रबाजी की आप आए। तो अब मैं आपसे रिक्वेस्ट करूंगी, क्योंकि अगर बात ये हो तो हम चलते ही रहेंगे, हम तो बार बार आपसे कहते रहेंगे आप और कुछ सुनाइए, आप और कुछ सुनाइए, लेकिन समय समय की सीमा भी देखनी पड़ेगी। तो उससे मैं आपसे नाउ आई रिक्वेस्ट यू to read your story. So I'm
Yeah,
waiting very
Devlata,
eagerly for that. Ji.
one thing I couldn't notice, there were some people were saying hello and all. I couldn't read it, so you
Yes,
must have
yes.
read them. So just you can say hello to them on my behalf.
Everybody, Dr. Koshi, Febi, Deepika, संतोष दी, सुनील कौशल जी, उन्होंने कहा आपने बहुत अच्छा सुनाया, और सबको बाकी
Thank you very much. I'm
जिनको
happy that
वानी,
Dr. Sunil Kaushal
रीना,
and Ampat Koshi is there, and of
yes,
course Fabi Joseph. I'd heard a lot of
yes,
them.
yes, he is also there.
So,
So
so there are some eminent personalities present. So, right.
you are the eminent
It will be
personality, so obviously. So
okay. So
so
let me start before people start running away.
no, we everybody is waiting for you to start, because we want to hear
Okay.
you read now. So
Okay. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I would initially, or at the very outset, thank Sunita for having given me this opportunity, for having invited me to narrate, or rather, I should say, read out a story. And I'm very, very, very thankful to her for that. This is something which I love, and if somebody asks me to do something which I love, it really gives me great pleasure. So I'm here to read out a story. It took me some time to, as Sunita knows, to decide on which, first of all, on which writer to choose. And then after I chose the writer, I had to select a story. I zeroed down on H.H. Munro, popularly known as Saki to all of us. And when I went through his collection of short stories, a huge collection, I decided to pick up a story which was very short, which would not take much time, and I didn't want to bore the august audience with a long story. As it is, Saki was very, I should say, he was not very good at writing. No, I can't say he was not very good. I mean, he was not very fond of writing long stories. It's an oxymoron, long short stories. But he was he used to write short stories which were really short. So I chose one of them, and the title of the story is The Open Window. It's a very popular story. I'm sure most of you must be familiar with it, must have read it.
yes.
So this is the story I'm going to read out today, and I'm sure I'm going to commit some mistakes because I have to read, and reading out has never been one of my, as Sunita would say, my talents. And that too, dramatized reading has never been one of my talents. In fact, this is the first time I am reading out something in a dramatized manner. So here I go. The Open Window by Saki. My aunt will be down presently, Mr. Nuttall, said a very self-possessed young lady of 15. In the meantime, you must try and put up with me. Frampton Nuttall endeavored to say the correct something which should duly flatter the niece of the moment, without unduly discounting the aunt that was to come. Privately, he doubted more than ever whether these formal visits on a succession of total strangers would do much towards helping the nerve cure which he was supposed to be undergoing. I know how it will be, his sister had said when he was preparing to migrate to this rural retreat. You will bury yourself down there and not speak to a living soul, and your nerves will be worse than ever from moping. I shall just give you letters of introduction to all the people I know there. Some of them, as far as I can remember, were very nice. Frampton wondered whether Mrs. Sappleton, the lady to whom he was presenting one of the letters of introduction, came into that nice division. Do you know many of the people around here? Asked the niece, when she judged that they had had sufficient silent communion. Hardly a soul, Frampton said. My sister was staying here at the rectory, some 4 years ago, and she gave me letters of introduction to some of the people here. He made the last statement in a tone of distinct regret. Then you know practically nothing about my aunt, pursued the self-possessed young lady. Oh, only the name and address, admitted the caller. He was wondering whether Mrs. Sappleton was in the married or widowed state. An undefinable something about the room seemed to suggest masculine habitation. Her great tragedy happened just 3 years ago, said the child. That would be since your sister's time, wouldn't it? Her tragedy? Asked Frampton. Somehow, in this restful country spot, tragedies seemed out of place. You may wonder why we keep that window wide open on an October afternoon, said the niece, indicating a large French window that opened onto a lawn. Oh, well, it's quite warm for the time of the year, said Frampton. But has that window got anything to do with that tragedy? Out through that window, 3 years ago to a day, her husband and her two young brothers went off for their day's shooting. They never came back. In crossing the moor to their favorite snipe shooting ground, they were all three engulfed in a treacherous piece of bog. It had been that dreadful wet summer, and places that were safe in other years gave way suddenly without warning. Their bodies were never recovered. That was the dreadful part. Here the child's voice lost its self-possessed note and became falteringly human. Poor aunt always thinks that they will come back someday. They and that little brown spaniel that was lost with them, and walk in at that window just as they used to do. That is why the window is kept open every evening till it is quite dusk. Poor dear aunt. She has often told me how they went out, her husband with his white waterproof coat over his arm, and Ronnie, her youngest brother, singing, Bertie, why do you bound? As he always did to tease her, because she said it got on her nerves. Do you know, sometimes on still, quiet evenings like this, I almost get a creepy feeling that they will all walk in through that window. She broke off with a little shudder. It was a relief to Frampton when the aunt bustled into the room with a whirl of apologies for being late in making her appearance. Oh, she has been. I hope Vera has been amusing you, she said. She has been very interesting, said Frampton. I hope you don't mind the open window, said Mrs. Sappleton briskly. My husband and brothers will be home directly from shooting, and they always come in this way. They have been out for snipe in the marshes today, so they'll make a fine mess over my poor carpets. So like you men folk, isn't it? She rattled on cheerfully about the shooting and the scarcity of birds and the prospects for duck in the winter. To Frampton, it was all purely horrible. He made a desperate but only partially successful effort to turn the talk on to a less ghastly topic. He was conscious that his hostess was giving him only a fragment of her attention, and her eyes were constantly straying past him to the open window and the lawn beyond. It was certainly an unfortunate coincidence that he should have paid his visit on this tragic anniversary. The doctors agree in ordering me complete rest, an absence of mental excitement, and avoidance of anything in the nature of violent physical exercise, announced Frampton, who labored under the tolerably widespread delusion that total strangers and chance acquaintances are hungry for the least detail of one's ailments and infirmities, their cause and their cure. On the matter of diet, they are not so much in agreement, he carried on. No, said Mrs. Sappleton in a voice which was only replaced by a yawn at the last moment. Then she suddenly brightened into alert attention, but not to what Frampton was saying. Here they are at last, she cried, just in time for tea. And don't they look as if they were muddy up to the eyes? Frampton shivered slightly and turned towards the niece with a look intended to convey sympathetic comprehension. The child was staring out through the open window with dazed horror in her eyes. In a chill shock of nameless fear, Frampton swung round in his seat and looked in the same direction. And what did he see? In the deepening twilight, three figures were walking across the lawn towards the window. All carried guns under their arms, and one of them was additionally burdened with a white coat hung over his shoulders. A tired brown spaniel kept close at their heels. Needlessly, they neared the house. Sorry, noiselessly they neared the house, and then a hoarse, young voice chanted out of the dusk. I said, Bertie, why do you bound? Frampton grabbed wildly at his stick and hat. The hall door, the gravel drive, and the front gate were dimly noted stages in his headlong retreat. A cyclist coming along the road had to run into the hedge to avoid imminent collision. Here we are, my dear, said the bearer of the white mackintosh, coming in through the window. Fairly muddy, but most of it is dry. And who was that who bolted out as we came in? A most extraordinary man, a Mr. Nuttall, said Mrs. Sappleton. Could only talk about his illnesses and dashed off without a word of goodbye or apology when you arrived. One would think he had seen a ghost. I expect it was the spaniel, said the niece calmly.
Yeah.
He told me he had a horror of dogs.
Dog.
He was once hunted into a cemetery somewhere on the banks of the Ganges by a pack of pariah dogs and had to spend the night in a newly dug grave with the creatures snarling and grinning and foaming just above him, enough to make anyone lose their nerve. Romance at short notice was her specialty. It was
Yes.
the niece's specialty, and I'm sure you will agree it was the specialty of Saki
Yes.
as well. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope I did not bore you, or rather, the story also did not bore you. Thank you very much.
It was most wonderful. And we were all spellbound
Oh,
by
really?
your story. Yes, of course.
Are you being honest in your praise, or just
No,
keeping my spirits
no.
high?
I'm being very honest. And later, when you look at the comments, you'll see how Vandita Dharni, she said that the diction, the way you're speaking is so perfect. Everyone was laughing. Reena, Preeti Manaktala, Koshi Sir, Santosh Bakayadi, and Lily
Oh,
Swaranji. All of them are here, and they were having, enjoying your narration. So
uh,
it was
so
wonderful.
I
The
must
story
thank
was
you
wonderful.
all, thank them all. The people you named, I must thank them all. Mr. Ampat Koshi, Lily Swaran, Febi Joseph,
Sunil
Vandita
Kaushal.
Dharni. So, Dr.
So,
Sunil Kaushal, of course. Her presence was
yes.
very, very important. And all of you came and listened. And as Sunita tells me, I haven't read the comments as yet. Sunita tells me you really enjoyed it. So I'm very glad to hear that. And I hope we meet again soon and I get an opportunity to hear you people, because now I have decided that I'm going to be a part of this. If Sunita is willing to make me a part of this, I would like to be invited to all the storytellings and recitations that Sunita keeps on holding every week.
Yes.
Do you accept my?
Of course, I'll invite you. There'll be many occasions on which I'll be inviting you. So
That's good. That's good.
not
I'll enjoy
not
that.
not just this is not the first. There'll be many other occasions, and it will be an honor for me. In fact, I think
Oh,
once we should have poetry recitation also, so we can all join in. And Shalini Samuel and Antara Nandal, Antara Mondal, I
Antramondal.
think Yeah, she also Gauri Dikshit and Koshi sir and Reena Prasad. Everybody says it was a lovely session. And Feby likes your bookshelves very much. So, so, so,
Asked, well,
so,
Freddy, were you looking at me or look at the bookshelf?
so I'm sure we shall repeat this again. Uh,
Yeah.
one
And
another session we do it.
let me tell
Yes.
you,
So
Sunita, I really enjoyed it. After a very long time, I got an opportunity to indulge in one of my favorite hobbies.
yes,
Uh, the other work, as you said, all that is rather a work of drudgery for me. But this I enjoy speaking, talking, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I was looking forward to it, and I really enjoyed it.
it
Thank
was
you
an
very much.
it was an honor to have you, sir, and thank you so much. So bye bye till another episode of
Okay, bye
Spinning
bye, everyone.
Sagas. Okay, bye bye, and thank you, Lakshmi Venkat ji. Good night, and good night, sir, and thank you for
Good
uh,
night, Sunita, and good night to all. Thank you very much.
thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.